nose, out through the mouth. You're bigger than the pain, remember that?
What the fuck is this?
It's a period pain simulator?
Oh, Christ alive. I need to talk to you privately. You know, about the client you were sleeping with? The one who ended up dead?
For the uninitiated, Curfew is a British-made crime drama that premiered in Paramount Plus in 2024 and recently slinked onto Channel 5, one of the UK's less illustrious free-to-air television channels. Curfew presents a dystopian, or some may say utopian, vision of a near-future Britain, where violence against women is a thing of the past, thanks to an act of Parliament imposing a strict nationwide curfew on all men and boys over the age of 10.
Oh, 10 metres from my own front door.
You guys never learn, do you? You could be 10 centimetres and we get you. You don't fuck with curfew.
Its plot is driven by a police investigation into the brutal murder of a woman during curfew hours, something that should be impossible now that all males are required to wear electronic ankle tags tracking their every movement under strictly enforced curfew rules. Reviews have been somewhat underwhelming, with one more generous critic describing it as a passable shoestring thriller, hobbled by a lot of weird gender politics, and with a central premise that requires superhuman levels of suspension of disbelief. Slightly less diplomatically, I would propose that Curfew is a shimmering gold-plated monument to the total absence of conscious thought. If one were to take all the idiocy in the known universe, distill it into a concentrated syrup, and pour it into a plastic hat, that hat would still possess more tactical nuance and basic survival instinct than this staggering piece of bovine vacancy. It is inevitably also deeply sexist in both its characterization of men and its apparent affirmation and positive regard towards its central curfew concept. Indeed, its plot holes, twists and revelations are so dumb that the novel which inspired it might by comparison be mistaken for being a somewhat nuanced and mindful meditation on male violence against women.
Curfew was supposed to make us safe.
Arresting you for breach of curfew.
They won't even let men be men anymore. Huge protests have sprung up across the country calling for an end to curfew.
A woman gets killed at night in public. It's a woman that's done it, Pam.
A woman wouldn't do that.
This is the death of intelligence.
So strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen, as I take you on a whistle-stop tour of Curfew's major plot points, and also share some observations about how a certain class of characters are consistently portrayed throughout.
Alright, gentlemen, let's do this.
Not once has the system failed. So yes, I think, for all intents and purposes, it is infallible.
Curfew can be described as a locked room mystery, a subgenre of crime fiction featuring a seemingly impossible crime, typically a murder committed in circumstances under which it appears impossible for the perpetrator to enter the scene, commit the crime and leave undetected.
So, what you got for me?
Accounted for. I've checked the whole system, no glitches, no signs of interference.
The seemingly impossible crime in this case involves the murder of a teacher called Helen, who, despite the supposedly foolproof tagging system, is killed during curfew hours.
Everything's working exactly as it should be, Pam. Whatever happened last night didn't involve a man.
And for the benefit of anyone contemplating the possibility that the killer might turn out to be female, I'll reiterate my opening observation that Curfew is both a deeply sexist and incredibly stupid piece of work.
A murder during curfew is bound to make people twitchy. People will want to know that the system still works. Go on then, move your bollocks.
Therefore, while suspicion does fall onto a number of female characters, the killer is inevitably revealed to be male.
It's not a woman.
Multiple witnesses saw her arguing with the victim last night.
something that lead detective D.I. Green is convinced of from the outset. So much so, in fact, that her colleagues suspect that her judgment must be clouded by her own tragic backstory.
How far was she dragged?
About 40 feet. Could a woman drag a body that far?
Well, women do get adrenaline surges.
Yeah, when they're hoiking a bloody great motorbike off one of their kids, Freddie, not when they're dragging a woman around a car park like a rag doll.
Involving the brutal murder of her daughter just 2 days before the curfew was first introduced.
Pamela, please. This was during the night. It can't have been a man.
For the record, the female suspects are Sarah, who confesses to Helen's murder and is seen physically assaulting her mere hours before her death. Her daughter Cass, who is one of Helen's students and steals a key that can unlock tagging devices. Janet, the manager of Sarah and Cass's mother house, who we discover has been harassing Helen.
Women don't realise when they enable their own destruction. When they tell their husbands they enjoy cooking for them. When they spend hours stripping their bodies of every trace of hair. They collude. Hell, they lead the fucking dance.
And Sean, a hotshot lawyer caught on CCTV, dumping her body. Incidentally, the Mother House system is a key element of Parliament's landmark Prevention of Femicide Act. They're housing complexes designed to give women a completely male-free living environment, subsidised by the state in a similar manner to contemporary refuge accommodation. Moving on to our lineup of suspected wretched scum and villainy.
Nice jumper.
Thanks. It's the first time I've been allowed to dress myself, so... Because I've been in uniform, not because my mum dresses me or anything.
This is DC Wilson, he's new.
We have Eddie, who is D.I. Green's rookie, eager-to-please sidekick. As a male police officer, he has limited dispensation to leave his home at night.
Dispatch, this is PC Wilson. A disturbance on Garland Road was a confused elderly woman. There's a false alarm.
Copy that. Your call-out has been logged as complete. You have 15 minutes to return home before your tag is reactivated.
Yep, copy that.
In his spare time, he enjoys surfing the manosphere. And at one point, we are led to suspect that he may have been blackmailing Helen to dress up as a sexy schoolgirl and say naughty things about boys.
I like the way they look at me. Like I could teach them how to please a woman.
Incidentally, D.I. Green appears to like a bit of rough, and her occasional lover, Steve, may have something to do with the mysterious bruises on her body.
It's not as bad as it looks.
People go to prison for a lot less, you know.
Well, I'm going to testify against you?
Maybe if I piss you off, eh?
Meanwhile, Billy takes an interest in self-help style podcasts by a key figure in the prescribed terrorist alpha movement, and thanks to Cass, is able to break curfew unnoticed.
Look familiar?
Christ, what are you going to do, arrest me for a bit of painting?
What, as in criminal damage? Yeah. Personally, I'm particularly interested when the person whose car you vandalised turns up dead.
Greg is Sarah's ex-husband and Cass's dad. He spray paints a nasty word onto Helen's car after he discovers that she colluded with Sarah to frame him and get him sent to prison.
You're going to regret this.
Patrick is Helen's one-time boyfriend who is denied a state-approved cohabitation certificate because he is suspected of weaponized incompetence, and later discovers that she aborted their child.
That man has a very dark side.
Tom works as a cohabitation counsellor, a role responsible for assessing whether men are safe enough to live with a female partner. Tom begins an illicit affair with Helen and manipulates her into aborting Patrick's child. He also had special dispensation to leave his home on the night of the murder.
Do you often sleep with your clients, Mr. Banley?
I took my approved commuting route and was back within the allotted hours.
We can check this, you know.
Ben is Sean's partner, a house husband, who is one of the few men to voluntarily emigrate to the UK post-curfew.
Just hanging out with my father-in-law, enjoying the nighttime air.
He is revealed to have been coercively controlling Sean for decades, blackmails Sarah into confessing to the murder, kidnaps Cass to get the tagging key, and murders his elderly father-in-law by throwing him off the roof. And finally, we have Max, who is Sean and Ben's teenage son, is popular with the ladies, and whose tag is never switched on due to an administrative oversight by Sarah, allowing him to break the curfew and murder his teacher after she rejects his sexual advances.
This is bad timing, Sue. People are already on edge with the vote coming up.
I know.
You assured us you could handle this.
I can.
Despite this revelation, the series ends on a cliffhanger, heavily implying that one of the female suspects will eventually be convicted of Helen's murder, because the big twist at the end is that multiple men have found ways to circumvent the curfew so they can sneak out at night and murder women. And, worse still, innocent women have been wrongly convicted of their crimes in order to maintain the authoritarian regime's zero male violence success rate, thus preserving the curfew system at the cost of women's lives and freedom.
Ferguson believed those women were guilty, but you knew the truth, didn't you?
What happened to your Jane wouldn't have happened if curfew had been brought in just 2 days sooner.
You think about that.
When women go to war, you know. They go to war.
Ladies, it's 7 a.m. Another curfew over. This song goes out to all the men joining our ranks this morning. Welcome back, guys.
Needless to say, the men in curfew are not depicted as complex human beings with individual agency, moral variability, or especially redeemable qualities. They're reduced to and objectified as a monolithic class defined by latent threat.
16 students.
9 boys. That means that 2 of you will commit domestic abuse. 1 will commit rape. Perhaps even 1 of you will kill.
News reports, public service announcements, and casual dialogue repeatedly reinforce the idea that, unchecked, men are existential threats. Tags are symbols of emasculation and control, and men who protest against them are framed as dangerous radicals or terrorists. Evidence of positive masculinity is almost non-existent.
Just relax, Freddie. It's Eddie. Mum.
All heterosexual relationships are portrayed as inherently suspect, and every male character is portrayed within a framework of presumed guilt, regardless if he is a grieving partner, a pensioner with late-stage Alzheimer's, or even the memory of a long-dead husband.
So, you've seen a man outside, Mum? I mean, not including myself.
No, they never locked up Henry, you know, and they should have done.
One would like to think that Curfew's blatant misandry would be self-evident to anyone who's seen it. But then again, most mainstream critics have had very little to say on the matter. Indeed, some have even criticised the production for muddling its message about violence against women by providing room in the story for some not all men, both sides whataboutery. Not a lot, as far as I could see, but certainly at least a little more than the 2022 novel, which is told entirely from the perspective of 4 female characters. Despite this, the 2024 TV adaptation is still infinitely inferior to its trashy, low-art, rage-filled source material, if for no other reason than it completely ignores Curfew's most glaringly obvious flaw. Granted, in the novel version it takes an incredible amount of mental gymnastics and 45 chapters to get round to mentioning it, but at least it eventually does. We'll address that glaringly obvious design flaw in part 2 of this presentation. And, I can't believe I'm saying this, we'll also have cause to consider the credibility of the claim from an Oxford professor in law that existing human rights legislation means that Parliament has an obligation to introduce an all-male curfew as a matter of maximum urgency. But for now, I'll conclude by reflecting on a concept that is championed in both the TV series and the book.
Do you know what weaponized incompetence is?
For the uninitiated, weaponized incompetence, sometimes called strategic incompetence, is a manipulative behaviour where someone intentionally acts incapable of performing tasks or understanding a matter in order to avoid responsibility, thus shifting the workload onto others. It's a fairly self-explanatory concept and a phenomenon that is apparently common in both relationships and places of work, often resulting in unequal divisions of labour, resentment and emotional fatigue for the individual or individuals required to take up the slack. Needless to say that in the dystopian world of Curfew, it is a behaviour exclusively projected onto men.
When men pretend to be crap at stuff so that they don't have to do it.
That's right.
And yet, it strikes me that it is a term that could equally apply to real-world champions of victims of domestic violence, who withhold regard and support for some victims, solely on the basis of their sex. Then again, I guess that such esteemed champions may very well dismiss this observation as an example of both sides' whataboutery. Even so, it also occurs to me that Curfew's most credible and chilling message is that people like Max can effectively weaponize institutional incompetence to quite literally get away with murder. That and the possibility that absolute power will corrupt absolutely, and that people with power are entirely capable of throwing women under the bus when it serves their self-interests and maintains their power and control.
Stupid.